Inherited property mistakes. In this video, I'm going to tell you guys the top mistakes people that just inherited a home make, and I'm going to tell you what not to do so you can have the best experience for yourself. Hey everybody, my name is Vince. I'm the CEO of OT Home Buyers. We're one of the best investment companies that help people get cash for their property. We help about 50 families every single year with situations like foreclosure, inherited property, past due mortgages, you name it. If it's a problem in real estate, we're going to help you. We can deal with it. The number one mistake I see people make is not proper planning. Y'all, if you have a parent or a grandparent that's getting older or just owns real estate in general, make sure you get a will or a trust. That's going to save you the headache of having to argue with other people who believe they're entitled to that property. If you don't have a will in place, if you don't have a trust in place, then the government will get involved on how the property is divided. I had a situation where a seller actually had a will. However, because the will was vague on who was the executor of the estate and each of the siblings wanted to be the executor, they could not get along. They had to go through probate. A court-appointed attorney was given to them, and the process slowed down drastically, and they're still fighting to get their money. The second mistake people make is fighting over the inheritance. Look, guys, if somebody is entitled to that property just as much as you are, then it's simply you split it 50-50. The only scenario where you're not splitting it 50-50, in my opinion, is if one of you has spent money to upkeep the property, right? Let's say you inherited a property, there was a mortgage on it, and you're paying the mortgage monthly, or the property had major repairs and you made those repairs, then I believe you're 100% entitled to get your money back first, and then you split the proceeds after that. Find a way to get along because you don't want to be a court-appointed attorney who has no invested interest in your property, or they're doing it pro bono, so you're very low on their priority list. A really, really big mistake, maybe one of the biggest mistakes you can make, is not probating the will. Depending on the jurisdiction, you have up to 4 years to probate that will. And if you don't probate that will, then most likely the title company or the attorney is going to use the government rules of inheritance for that property. So they're going to treat it as if there was no will. So what does that mean? We had a situation with a family, okay? I want you guys to pay attention. There was a husband and a wife, right? Now, the husband passed away and he had kids outside of the marriage, so the property went to his kids. Now, this whole time, the wife assumed that she owned the full property. So I don't know what attorney she hired or how he or she missed this, but he did a will for the wife. So the wife passed on the property to her kids had kids, and that was all good and well, right? We found the property with a great grandkid. However, after our title company looked at the entire situation, we found that the grandkid only owned the mother's half of the property, and she had to split the proceeds with the kids of the father that happened outside the marriage. So make sure the attorney you hire is thorough. This is why you want to probate the will right away, because now everybody had passed away, including the attorney that did the will, and there's no way to go back and correct it and get in touch with the people that need to get in touch with. Another major mistake that people make is not keeping up with their family. Just like that situation I told you, you have stepsisters, stepbrothers, cousins that are entitled to that property, but because you have no relationship with them, or let's say you had a family beef, now you don't want to talk and you're missing out on getting your inheritance. That's a major mistake I see all the time. The last mistake I see happening is your house is a fixer-upper, so you list it with the first realtor you find, and a lot of realtors, what they'll do is, let's say your property is worth $100,000. What they'll do is they'll list it for $130,000 in hopes to get more than what it's worth. or to leave room for negotiation. Look, I've been doing this for 5 years. If a property is worth $100,000, I say list it for $100,000. The market will never lie. List the property correctly with the right price, and you will get offers and it'll sell quickly. What happens if your property is sitting for 60, 70 days? When investors look at it, they're like, what is wrong with this property? It looks good on paper, but nobody is buying it. And now people are going to start lowballing you. Another thing that's going to hurt your listing, if you list it for 130,000, then you price drop to 120, then price drop to 110. Investors are going to start circling in the water and they're going to think that you're desperate to sell. Make sure you price the property correctly and make sure you hire a professional realtor. The number one sign for a professional realtor, and I'm not a realtor, is they tell you what to do. A lot of people have dominant personalities. They're emotionally attached to their property, and they're telling the realtor, look, you need to list it at this price. This is the agreement. This is all I'm paying for your services. A professional realtor is going to hear out the seller and tell them exactly what to do in their professional experience. And if the seller does not want to list the realtor, then I recommend the seller gets another realtor. I believe realtors are doing themselves a disservice by listening to the homeowner just to get the listing. They're the professional. You need to listen to them. That's the equivalent of hiring a lawyer, an attorney, a doctor, and you're giving them advice. A realtor has a license, they've been trained, and it's your job to listen to them.